Welcome into Dolphins today. So glad to have you along, and it is about to go down. We're talking all about the latest news and rumors as it surrounds the Miami Dolphins. I am your host, Jake Rietma. Appreciate you tuning in. Welcome in, Fins fans. We start with an official tweet from the Miami Dolphins HQ coming to you from South Beach that are alluding to some roster moves. So, the Dolphins have activated Nik Needham off the physically unable to perform list and placed offensive lineman Isaiah Wynn on injured reserve. So we knew that was coming. We talked about the injury blows that continue to hit the Dolphins and in particular at the offensive line group. It sucks. It is what it is. And that entire left side has just been decimated by injuries. Connor Williams at the center position, Isaiah Wynn, and obviously Teron Armstead. Not great. So what does that mean? It's a next man up mentality. And the Dolphins know that. You know that. I know that. Mike McDaniel knows it. So who's up next at the left guard position for the Miami Dolphins? We saw Lester Cotton move in to that role during Sunday Night Football. And listen, it's a tough spot to be in. I'm not making excuses for him, but what I will tell you, a hostile environment, Sunday Night Football against a great Eagles team, to come in cold like that and be expected to perform, it's a lot to ask. And Mike McDaniel even furthered his support on Lester Cotton, saying he's confident in his abilities, especially given a full week to practice with the number one offense. So Cotton replaced Wynn in Sunday night's loss to Philadelphia. The numbers were not great. 44 snaps. He did allow a sack, 4 quarterback pressures, and he had the costly penalties. I'm not going to get into it too much, but he had a couple of pre-snap penalties as well as the holding penalty that negated a Tyreek Hill touchdown. So very, very costly. But again, tough spot to be in. However, I love seeing the head coach voice his support for Lester Cotton. So who steps up as the replacement at left guard if it's not Lester Cotton? Couple of different options to get into. Rob Jones is one of them. He's been active off of IR. He started the season on IR, but he's healthy and good to go now. I still believe it's going to be Cotton, but another couple of options for Mike McDaniel. Alama Ulave, he's an undrafted rookie on the practice squad, and Chasen Hines also on the practice squad. And you guys know I'm always real with you. I'm always real with you. So to be perfectly transparent, this is a 2-horse race between Lester Cotton and Rob Jones. Rob Jones spent the first month of the season on IR with that MCL sprain, but he played a decent amount last year. Started 9 games at left guard in place of Liam Eichenberg. And Robert Jones is a guy that has NFL experience. He can at least bring some sort of stability to the offensive line if that's what you're looking for. But the one thing that concerns me a little bit about Rob Jones is he has been healthy enough to go for 2 weeks, but hasn't really found himself in the mix yet. So if not now, then when? Probably never, because the offensive line is decimated. So Robert Jones, Lester Cotton, I think those are your 2 best options at the left guard position during the Isaiah Wynn injury. Now, I've said my piece. I want to know from you. Let me know in the comments what you say about the left guard position for the Dolphins. Who do you want to start at left guard versus the Patriots? Type LC for Lester Cotton, RJ for Robert Jones. It's our pinned comment. You know what to do. So again, either one could work out, I think, but when you go with the game experience that Lester Cotton already had, combined with exactly what Mike McDaniel said this week about him having a week to practice with the first-team offense, that makes such a difference. And I think Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith, for that matter, will ride with Lester Cotton because, again, he played the 44 snaps on Sunday. The numbers weren't great, but he's the guy that steps up and fills that role at left guard for a decimated Dolphins front offensive line, especially on that secondary as well. Now, also, the secondary is a little bit decimated. So we're going to tell you all about what this means, and maybe someone new could be joining that secondary. That's coming up next. But first, I got to tell you about Prize Picks because I'm addicted to it. Listen, it's a good thing to be addicted to because it is the most exciting and easiest, for that matter, way to play daily fantasy sports. What's daily fantasy sports, you ask? Well, it's real simple, Jake, not to worry. You don't have to have some long complicated Excel spreadsheet. All you got to do is make a pick of a player against their projected stats. So, for example, I do it every Sunday with the Dolphins. I've been showing you guys these all season long. But you pick more or less on a player's projected stats. I've got it all ready to go for this weekend. I think Raheem Mostert has a big bounce-back game. That's why I'm picking the more on his rushing yards at 63.5. Tyreek Hill, he's going to get into the end zone. He always does. And right now on Prize Picks, you can get the more or less at 0.5. Receiving touchdowns or rushing touchdowns for that matter. So I'm picking more. And I thought, you know what? Why not? Let's spice up Thursday night football. Give me a reason to watch. I'm checking out Stephon Diggs, and I'm picking more on his receiving yards. And now the fun part begins. You watch the game. You see if your player follows along with your pick against the projected stat line, more or less. And don't worry, we've got a special deal for you. We always do. PrizePicks.com/CLNS for being a Dolphins fan and Dolphins subscriber. We're giving you a $100 deposit match. Just in case you missed that, I'm going to say it one more time. A $100 deposit match. Okay, two more times. A $100 deposit match at PrizePicks.com/CLNS. We'll put the link in the chat as well, so you can go right now to PrizePicks.com/CLNS for a $100 deposit match for the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. I mentioned the secondary, right? Needham is coming back. He returned to practice. And you know what? I think that's a welcome sign for the Miami Dolphins because now all of a sudden, in the midst of the season, you're starting to get some pieces back, right? And we know about Vic Fangio, and as a legendary defensive coordinator, he excels when he has a lot of pieces to work with, and he's starting to get those pieces back. He didn't have a lot of them on Sunday night against the Eagles, but Nik Needham is a guy that I expect to see start to make an impact and play in that secondary. Remember, he's returning from that Achilles injury that he suffered in 2022. He's a fifth year pro out of UTEP, 6 career interceptions, but in 2021, really impressed with the way he played all 17 games. He was an impactful player there. And also, Vic Fangio is on record as calling him a versatile player, right? So he can play perhaps a safety position. He can play a nickel corner. He's a piece that you can plug and play with, and I think it'll be a welcomed addition to the Dolphins secondary. One of those other welcome additions we know is going to be Jalen Ramsey as well. Cannot wait for that because when you start to think about that Dolphins secondary, things are coming together. There's some guys getting healthy. There's some other guys who are maybe going to be called upon to make a little bit more of an impact. And then on the other side, Jevon Holland in concussion protocol, so we're not sure what that timeline will look like with him to return. I mentioned Nik Needham. And Xavien Howard practiced today on Wednesday, as did Jalen Ramsey. So if those are your two corners, wow, that's going to be scary for the opposition. Now, the only thing I'll say, still a little bit concerned with Cam Smith. Why have we not seen him? I don't want to beat a dead horse or be a broken record. We've talked about it at length on this program. But the fact that the second-round pick still isn't able to crack any kind of the defensive rotation is a little bit concerning. So the pieces are there, some injuries, Jevon Holland in concussion protocol, but the secondary has been a weak spot for the Dolphins. So I ask you, what is your concern level with the Dolphins secondary? Scale it for me, 1 through 10. I got to be honest with you, it is enough of a concern to be talking about it, but I want to change that word from concern and use a different word that begins with the letter C. I am very curious about what this Dolphins secondary can be when you start to get major pieces back, combined with the fact that I still believe in Vic Fangio. And I've read the comments. I know a lot of you guys don't believe in Vic Fangio, and that's okay. I'm not trying to force my belief onto anybody else, but I would caution you to be a little bit patient. Wait to see what that Dolphins secondary looks like with Jalen Ramsey back in the lineup, with a healthy Xavien Howard, and see how the pieces come together. So for that, I'm curious as to see how this Dolphins defense, and in particular the secondary, will progress. So I'd call it about a 4. And thankfully, I talk about get-right games all the time. The Dolphins have had a couple of them. I see Sunday as another get-right game for Miami, especially for their back seven and for the defensive secondary. Because when you look at the Patriots group of wide receivers and tight ends, there really isn't a lot that jumps off the page to you. Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster's best days are behind him. And Hunter Henry, I bet he's got a lot of upset fantasy owners because he just really hasn't done a lot for the Patriots. And it starts with Mac Jones. And listen, we're going to have a deeper dive into what that Patriots team can bring up against the Dolphins a little later on in the week. But again, I see this as a get-right game for Miami. So with that, it's exciting, right? You look for the Dolphins to get back into the win column and continue leading the AFC East, even though they've already beat the Patriots once. It's a divisional game. It's at home. The throwback uniforms are going to be out there. It's something to be excited about, and I hope you'll join us for our watch party on Sunday. We always have the hour-long tailgate edition leading you up to kickoff, and you know what? In my humble opinion, it's the best place to watch the game if you're not going to be at Hard Rock Stadium. We have a lot of fun, we'll have some giveaways, and we will get wild and crazy like we always do. So join us for a watch party on Sunday as the Dolphins take on the Patriots.